the legal framework around this or the marketing channels. Like, it's very, very nice to know that every single person has a prescriptive way to become embedded within your team, and then a strict way to know whether or not you're right. This can't all be left to like, I like the person and therefore I'm letting them work for us, you know?
Revenue boosters, tips now in the fast lane. Watch your profits grow. Welcome to the Riff Up Podcast.
Hey, Alex.
Hi, Greggy.
Welcome. Excited for you to be here. Everyone, Alex is the founder and CEO of Scale Army, an international recruiting company. Alex, excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be part of the inaugural podcast.
Yeah. So before we jump in and learn all about your secrets or tricks or tips for other folks to grow their revenue, do you want to give everyone a quick overview of your background?
Yeah, sure. So I started out of college as the first sales hire at an Andreessen-backed company called Belly, doing like outdoor sales, carrying an iPad, door-to-door stuff. Very good way to learn what you are good and not good at. And then left and was the first sales exec at a company called Spot Hero, which is a couple $100 million GMV parking marketplace that you probably know from Chicago. And then launched and raised for my own startup, which terribly failed in the funeral industry. And then after that, started just built a growth marketing agency helping venture-backed startups. And fast forward to how we got here. Basically, our business was Americans in the front doing like sales and account management and project management, and then amazing international talent in the back. And our clients kept wanting to hire the international talent directly. And we were like, oh, that's a better business.
Very cool. That's awesome. I've had a lot of success hiring folks internationally. It's just an incredible thing it's like a superpower for business. Give people, before we get into your sales function, your growth function, the shape of the business, whatever metrics you can share.
So right now we are 16 people internally, full-time. And then we have, we're doing like a couple million in revenue, and we're in, I think, 14 countries now, mostly Latin America, Africa, Middle East, and Eastern Europe. And we are bootstrapped.
Fantastic. So
as of today, I'm the only American, which is a fun thing to be able to say, you know?
That's awesome. Yeah. That's pretty wild. Let's start at the top. So on the growth side, demand generation, where do your leads tend to come from?
So I'm a huge believer, having run marketing for, at a bunch of startups, right? I'm a huge believer that, like, although it's super nice to be able to have a big megaphone from day one, right? Like, and work on premium content and all these things that are really cool and interesting, like, paid marketing is still the only way to scale sustainably, right? And so almost all of our leads come from paid. We have a good amount of, some come from like referral and organic and word of mouth, but almost all of them are still coming from paid.
That makes sense. I think most businesses are pretty dependent on paid. What's working in paid? What channels, what strategies?
So I'd say channels wise, we test everything. And right, that's been a big journey from day one, is learning, like, how do we, again, being bootstrapped, how do we have the human capital to test all the channels, right? There's this book called Traction, I think everyone should read, from like the DuckDuckGo guy. I think that's who wrote it. But it goes over like what all the traction channels are for B2B or D2C. And for us, we just, from day one, I was like, we have to try as many paid channels as we can. So for us right now, we've tested LinkedIn, Google, Reddit, Twitter, Meta. And right now for us, Twitter and Meta, or X, are the winners.
Wow. So everyone knows Meta. Everyone's done that before. What's the secret to X? I have not spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, it's different, right? So like, it's a little bit more volatile, but we love it, right? So we love it because we're not, I think, and this is just a theory, I think that since Elon took over, right, like a lot of advertisers pulled out, right? And it became like a crazy space where there's a lot of like toxic stuff happening there. But like, because of that, our CPMs are, lower, and that's been great for us.
How much lower?
I'd say right now, probably like 30% less than Meta, which is great.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And the thing that works for us has just been kind of like getting as close as we can to being inflammatory and problematic on Twitter, right? Just because that's the platform now. And And so like the funnier and more direct we've made our ads, the like lower our cost per lead is. And then we're like, how do we balance this with like not being jerks and like also worrying about our brand equity, but like knowing that like, we are in the cost per lead game and there's a lot of people in our space. And so, yeah, I guess that's like thing one. And the other thing that we've learned is that running Twitter ads from the corporate account just like doesn't work. And we haven't tested that enough on Meta to know the answer if this is true, but people don't want to follow companies, right? Like, I don't care what companies have to say. I want to follow humans and I want to like learn, right? And like, that's why influencer and UGC work so well in the consumer space. And so all the ads that perform well on Twitter for us come from my personal account.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I've never even considered that. Maybe that's something we should check out, using my own personal account to run ads rather than the company.
I mean, you get attacked. I mean, that's only like warning. It's like you're the person that gets attacked, right? And so we've had it like, we comically have like I've just had to brush it all off. Like we have a Slack thread internally even called like negative ad reactions, where we just paste them as like a wall of shame where like people just scream at us all day for like anything, like I have a Substack because I love writing, and I run ads there on Twitter to promote my Substack. And even there, like I'll like tweet about how I had a health problem or something, and then people are just like shitting on me left and right on Twitter. And I think that's just like, but like, that's the price you pay for being in the stadium,
Totally. So you're on X, or Twitter is working as well or better than Meta, 30% lower. How does that shake out in the end? What does that look like in terms of?
Yeah, I guess for like our cost per lead, I mean, it depends. Some weeks it's like $60 a lead. Some weeks it's like $180. So it's these like, we're bootstrapped. So like our spend is not large enough to be totally stable, but that's one of the reasons we have diversified on multiple channels, right? So we're still running ads on all the platforms I mentioned. It's just like the amount that we allocate per channel just varies based on the performance of that channel during that week.
Got it. But one of the big secrets or tips then is run it from your account rather than the brand account.
I mean, I could just think as a consumer, right? Like I'd much rather hear what Greg has to say rather than Upcraft,
Totally. Yeah, that makes sense. How much better is it in your data? Do you have specific data on how much better that is?
I think it was like 40% cheaper cost per leads. I think it was like very, very substantial. And again, our spend is small enough that maybe that's not like the end is super, super tiny, but right. But that's what we've noticed. And so, I mean, I think we're just going to keep running this playbook and probably try the same thing on Meta and then try it on LinkedIn and all the other. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just keep it going. Yeah.
So you have all these different paid channels and paid over organic. When the leads come in, what does your sales process look like? What tips or tricks are you seeing that work on the sales side?
We've got an SDR who does the typical B2B qualification process. So she reaches out and makes sure that they're showing up to the meeting and all those things. And then we have a sales rep so we kind of split it into if a company is over, let's say 25 employees, I take the call with the sales rep. And then if it's under 25, he takes the call without me. And then we have an account management process as well that steps in after that. But again, I'm the only American, and then everyone else is offshore, which that's been a huge learning for us of like, how do we pull that off?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think I've seen lots of roles work well internationally. Definitely sales is more on the frontier of what I've seen folks really invest in. What have you learned there? What's been the secret to making that work?
It's a lot of stuff, right? Like we have to go through a lot of people to find people that we think will work for this. Like we just had someone on a trial last week and he didn't work out for the role, right? But so much of this is, the world is connected, blah, blah, blah. We're all consuming the same TikToks and we're all the same, right? So like if I find someone who like, no matter where they are, if they can talk about Fallout and Game of Thrones and, and like all the things that are culturally relevant, that builds trust in a pretty strong way. Right. And there's totally a dilutive effect, right? Where, I will be CEO and American with a LinkedIn that, is recognizable. And you see, I went to Michigan and you're like, oh, I know someone went to Michigan. You do that thing in your head. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm safe to buy from. Right. And so like, that is the typical path for like, I think why, to your point, everyone goes for, let's have an American person do the selling. Right. But it is a math game. Right. And so if the compensation required to hire an American sales rep, is outweighed by the discount of someone offshore. And then you take the dilutive conversion effect into account, right? Like for us, at least where we are bootstrapped, like we can't justify it. We can't justify the maybe like little boost you get from the person who happens to go to WashU, right? It just doesn't matter to us. If the person in, anywhere else in the world is relatable and seems to have a high enough close rate, then like, that's all we need to know,
Got it. So people are, you think, maybe having a little bit lower close rate, but the cost savings makes up for it.
Totally. We're pretty thorough on our feedback, even for our sales reps. Like when I am on a call or our current sales manager's on a call, like even on a cold call, on a new lead with a client, like we will kick the sales rep off if we will make the client stay on, and like we will ask them questions about what it was like to interact with that sales rep and like get feedback live of like, hey, Greg, what did you think of Jimmy? Like, how was it? Like, did you find his English was good enough? Did you find he filled the dead space with engaging questions? Did you ever feel awkward? Like, was there a trust issue? And like, probably makes the client uncomfortable a little bit, but like, it's the feedback we need to know how to build this company,
Wait, so you're getting on the call and asking clients those questions?
Completely. During someone's onboarding/trial period, we are relentless. Like and then we get the feedback to the person. We're like, hey, like she said the first 3 minutes you didn't do a good job, and here's why, and they want to get better too. Like everyone just wants to be better. So.
Wow. So you just said that you're doing that in the onboarding, and you just said that there was a salesperson you had that didn't work out. Like what does that look like? So does that happen frequently?
Yeah. We are we're very thorough internally. So I'd say, we give everyone, again, we have internal and then we have external hires, right? But for the internal ones, like we want to build a place where everyone loves everyone so much. And like, and again, this isn't my thought, but if you take an average like a mean score of everyone who works for you and you were to rank them out of 10 of like just awesomeness, like how much you like working with this person. And let's say your average right now is an 8.5. And then you bring on someone who's like an 8.3, right? Like you are diluting your team's average greatness, right? And I think that's an important thing to think about. And so every time we bring on a new hire, we give them a 30-day trial. And then during those 30 days, it's a few things are measured. It's, are you getting it, right? That's the most important one. Like, do we feel like you're picking up all the stuff we're putting down? And then the second thing is, does everyone here like you? And that likability really matters because there is a cost to having someone that even just like one person who you love doesn't like. Like there's a cost over time there,
How do you evaluate that? Like, what does that look like in your onboarding process?
Does everyone like you is really just like a one-on-ones. Like we have enough one-on-ones the managers do that we're all like meeting and saying like, what do you think of John? Is he doing well? Like, do you like him? Right. But the main thing is that we have a very thorough onboarding. Like we have an exhaustive, for us it's ClickUp, but we used to be on Google Sheets where the first 3 weeks are incredibly detailed. And do you want me to go in? Like I could go into
that. Yeah.
Like into that. Like and I took this from an advisor of ours, but she basically taught us that, okay, so weeks 1, 2, and 3 are bucketed into rows, and they're tiny tasks that are as small as take a headshot of yourself, upload it with this tool, add a background that matches our company's hex code, crop the avatar, put that on Slack and ClickUp and Google and HubSpot, right? And then, meet with Greg and ask him about how the account management process works. Read this mind map and go through and make sure you understand everything. And every single thing that you do for the first, definitely not 3 weeks, the first 2 weeks is self-managed, right? Like I only meet with a new hire who's on their trial, even if they're direct report to me, at the beginning of every day for 15 minutes and then probably at the end. And throughout the entire day, they are self-managed, like following this checklist of booking times with every other people on the team and asking them to get taught about the thing that is in their onboarding doc. And that has been amazing for us because you really get a feel of like, is this person capable of like quickly welding into your company? And then, at the end of the day, I have these 15 minutes with the person, do I get to decide, like, do they understand our sales process or, the legal framework around this or the marketing channels? Like, it's very, very nice to know that every single person has a prescriptive way to become embedded within your team and then a strict way to know whether or not you're right. Like this can't all be left to like, I like the person and therefore I'm letting them work for us,
Totally. So you have this checklist. I'd love to see that checklist. Do you have a version of that I could check out?
Yeah. I'll send you like a generic version we have. Yeah, our clients ask for it a bunch because it's a game changer, right? The last thing you want is you bring someone on and you either let them go or they onboard too slowly, and all of that could have been avoidable had you just been a better manager.
Do you have the same checklist for everybody, or how does that work?
No, not at all. So the only thing that sucks is like you have to care as the hiring manager, as the manager, right? Like whenever we bring on a new person, assuming it's not an identical role to one before, you probably spend as a manager like 2 to 3 hours like editing this checklist to be, again, like detailed and bespoke for the role that the person is. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so then this checklist goes on, and you said that folks don't work out. What does that look like? How do you manage that process?
I mean, we're very explicit and we set expectations. I think the most important thing for that is just setting expectations, right? So we say like, hey, we're bringing you on for a trial. We're paying you. 50% of the people don't make it through. Here's exactly why.
50%.
And the team, yeah. That's internally. Externally, I think our clients, we do just as much vetting externally to make sure that the people we're bringing on for our clients trials are like amazing. But I think our clients are way too chill, right? Like, I think most people are way too chill about onboarding, and then they're like, oh, this person wasn't good. And it's like, no, like you didn't care enough, right? Is like what we always say.
Wow.
So like so I'd say like our clients retention rate is much higher than our internal one. I'd say like 97% of the talent that we place within our clients retains post first 30 days. Internally, it's probably only like 50%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I also don't know if it should be higher or lower, but I know that that's what it currently is, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It does require a certain amount of, I don't know if the word's intensity, to stay true to parting ways when people are in between, right? If people maybe work out, maybe don't work out, it's really hard to justify parting ways because it's a human and
totally. And we've messed up before, right? So like we've had, the right person, but the seat wasn't the wrong seat on the bus, right? Or like, like very rarely do you interview someone and you find out like, oh, they're so terrible. Typically it's like, oh, they lack these few skill sets and turns out these are non-negotiables. We didn't realize it until now, right? So I think that's a bunch of it. But yeah, we want to build a place where everyone loves working here, and we can't do that if you like, it's a bad message. If everyone's doing an amazing job and then you bring on someone who people see aren't doing an amazing job, and it's noticed that you're cutting them like so much slack and they're underperforming, it sends a really bad message to the incumbent people that like, you don't have to work hard, and you like all the work you've put in, we don't care about, right? Like it's not nice. And so there's like also a kindness to the people who are amazing that you need to think about,
Absolutely. I think the adage is right. Hire slow, fire fast. But I think people hire fast and fire slow too frequently. So it's cool that, you're actually walking the walk as a recruiting company, having great people, processes. 50% seems aggressive, but it's probably right, especially in a sales organization. Awesome. Very cool. Alex, this is great. 2 big tips for me. Number 1 is trying to do ads from my account or from individuals instead of brands. 2 is a really strong onboarding process. I'm excited to check out your checklist and get that in the show notes. And then I guess 3, actually trying out sales internationally. I'm excited to see how that might actually work.
I'm obviously so biased, but I'm a huge, like, there are so many people all over the world that are really cool that can sell things. Like, it's like so much of sales is a personality hire, and there are cool people everywhere,
Totally. Sounds like you could even be helpful. If people want to find you and check you out, where should they look?
I would go to scalearmy.com, and then you'll hear from our SDRs.
What about you personally? Where should people go to get in touch with you?
I would say Twitter, just Kruger Says is my Twitter. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Greg. Congrats on podcast number 1.
Thank you.
Rev up your ears, it's time to ignite. GTM leaders bringing secrets to light. Revenue boosters, tips